Hi everyone. We're going to continue our discussion of crimes against property here with the last few crimes that we're going to discuss. And the first one that I want to go over here is embezzlement. And embezzlement is another one of those crimes that you guys have probably heard of, and you probably have a good idea of what it is, but you might not be exactly sure what it means. And a lot of times when we talk about embezzlement, we're talking about it in terms of what we call white collar crime. White collar crime, they tend to involve like banking and securities fraud and things like that. The elements of embezzlement in Pennsylvania are the unlawful taking of property by someone to whom it has been entrusted. So, the thing that makes embezzlement a little bit different than the other theft crimes is in most of the other theft crimes, you're taking something that you had no right to actually possess. So, in larceny, if you remember my example from the video that I posted the other day, I've got the example where Abby's sitting on the bench and I take her purse when she's not looking. I had no right to take the purse, but I'm taking it anyway. What makes embezzlement a little bit different here is that you are given the property and you have the right to actually possess the property, but you are not doing with the property what you were supposed to be doing. What do you need, sweetheart? Okay, I have a visitor. I'm making a video for my students. Can you say hello? Say hi, students. We are being shy. Okay. So here's an example of embezzlement where you have someone that is, say, a financial advisor. Josh is Cole's financial advisor, and Cole gives Josh $100,000 to invest on his behalf. So at this point, guys, Josh has not stolen the $100,000. He didn't take it when Cole wasn't looking. He didn't trick Cole into giving it to him. Cole gave it to him willingly and said, "Here is my money. This is what I want you to do with it. I want you to invest it." All right. Josh decides he's going to take $5,000. He's not going to tell Cole, so it's not like part of their fee agreement or anything. He just takes it. He only invests $95,000, hoping that maybe Cole won't notice. All right. That would be an example of embezzlement. Sydney's a bank teller and takes $100 from the drawer at the end of her shift. Again, she was entrusted with this money. She was put in charge of the drawer at the bank, and then she takes the money that she's not supposed to take. So this is what embezzlement is. Guys, the one thing that I want you to keep in mind is that embezzlement often deals with money, but it doesn't have to. You can embezzle property that is not necessarily money, but a lot of times we do see people like skimming money off the top. Financial advisors maybe not investing all of what their clients were asking them to invest for them. And that's where we see it a lot. So, a lot of times when we talk about embezzlement, it deals with money, but it doesn't have to. Extortion is what we often call blackmail, and the elements of extortion are the use of threats to obtain the property of another. So, you threaten someone with something, and you tell them that you will not follow through with the threat if they pay you money. Mrs. Hollis tells Savannah that she will tell her mother that she's been cheating on her tests unless Savannah pays her $500. This would be an example of extortion. I've threatened her. I've told her, "Hey, I'm going to tell your mom that you're cheating." And the purpose of it was to get her to give me her property or her $500. So a lot of times we call that blackmail. All right. Burglary is another one that a lot of times people will confuse burglary with robbery. And I mentioned this in the video that I posted earlier as well, that say you're out for the evening with your family and you come home and you see that your house has been broken into and someone has gone through your things and taken some of them. A lot of times you'll have people call the police and say, "We've been robbed." And that's inaccurate because, as you know from yesterday's lesson, the person wasn't robbed. There was no use of force against a person. They might have used force against the door or the window to get into the house, but that's not what we mean when we say use of force for robbery. Robbery is use of force against another person. Burglary is when you have an unauthorized entrance into a building with the intent to commit a crime inside. It does not have to be theft. And a lot of times burglary is associated with theft, but it doesn't have to be. You could be breaking inside to kidnap someone, to harm someone, to vandalize the building, whatever. All right. If you go into that building and you are not authorized to do so, and your purpose when you enter into the building is to commit a crime once you are inside, then you're committing burglary. Now, I told you that we were going to talk about Pennsylvania law, and that last slide that I showed you was Pennsylvania law, but I wanted to show you this just to show you how different some of these common law crimes are. In common law, like I said yesterday, was sort of before different states really started to adopt statutes and put the language in here for the precise crimes that they wanted. So common law was sort of what was developed by the court system. So what burglary used to be, and again, this isn't the current law, this is what it used to be. It used to involve breaking into a dwelling at night. So you had to break into somewhere that someone lived. If you broke into, say, a business, that did not count as burglary. Again, it was still a crime. It was just not burglary. And it had to be at night. For some reason, burglary was limited to nighttime. So if you broke into someone's house during the day, again, you're looking at being charged with another crime. Most states have expanded this. Like I said, Pennsylvania is one of them. So it doesn't have to be a dwelling, and it can be any time of day. But that's what burglary used to be back in the day. Guys, forgery is another one we have here. The elements of forgery are when a person falsely makes or alters a written document with the intent to defraud. So it can either involve making something, creating a document that didn't exist, you make the document for the purpose of defrauding someone else, or altering a document like a will, scratching out provisions of a will, faking someone's signature, a check. If you steal someone's checkbook and you write out a check and you forge their signature on it, then that would be considered forgery. Guys, the intent here has to be to defraud. So let me give you an example of something that was not forgery, and this happened to me. This is a true real life story. Oh, back in the day, and I can't remember how many years ago, it was when mobile banking was fairly new, so it was probably at least 7 or 8 years ago. But just by way of background, my husband and I share a bank account. We have a joint bank account that has both of our names on it. Both of our paychecks get deposited into it. We both have the ability to withdraw from this account, move money around, etc. So, bearing that in mind, in my household, I'm responsible for the finances. I pay the bills, I do our budgets, I decide what we can afford, what we can't afford. That's just my responsibility in our marriage. So whenever my husband would get a check, he would hand it to me and say, here, go ahead and put this in the bank next time you do the banking. So when we started using the mobile deposit, he would give me checks and I would sign his name to it, which his name is just a scribble. It's not not that hard to copy, but apparently I wasn't doing as good of a job as I thought I was. So I got a letter from PNC Bank one day, and I wish I had kept it. They basically called me out for signing checks with my husband's name, even though I was depositing them into an account that also had his name. I wasn't putting them in an account that didn't have his name. I wasn't like signing them over to someone else. And they told me that I was no longer going to be allowed to use their banking app. They were going to shut off my mobile banking privileges if I continued to commit forgery. So, being the, former lawyer that I am, and not taking kindly to being called someone that was committing forgery, I called the bank and very kindly advised them that perhaps they should check with their attorneys before sending out such a letter, because forgery involves the intent to defraud, and I, in fact, had my husband's permission to sign the checks with his name, and I also was not defrauding him of the checks because I was putting them into an account that also had his name on it. So that was not an example of forgery. Needless to say, they were very apologetic, and I still to this day have the mobile banking capability. But forgery would be if I intended to defraud him. Let's say I took checks that he didn't know were coming in. Maybe I pulled them out of the mail, signed his name on them, and then put them in an account that just had my name. That would be an example of forgery. And then the last one that I want to talk about here, guys, is receiving stolen property. And the elements of receiving stolen property is when you receive or buy property. So this can be something that is either given to you or something that you purchase, right? And here, the second element, guys, the way it's worded is really, really important. that you know or have reason to believe is stolen. So back in the day, someone that I knew, not me, this isn't like oh, I'm asking for a friend type of situation, but it's really me. This was really not me. I would not do something like this. But someone that I knew was bragging about ordering jerseys, like hockey jerseys and football jerseys. And they found this website, and they were very clearly ordering them from someone that was not supposed to have them. They were selling them for like $30 a piece when they typically retail for like $200. So the implication there is that they were somehow stolen. Now, it certainly didn't say on the website, these are stolen jerseys. Um, and if the person had gotten in trouble for it, if the law was worded so it said, they were stolen, they could say, well, I didn't know they were stolen. I just thought I got a really good deal. All right. So the courts have said, well, listen, we're going to look at the circumstances and say, should you have known that what you were getting was stolen? Is it too good to be true? And do circumstances suggest that it was stolen? If you're buying something out of like the back of someone's van, all right, or like, the circumstances are just super shady, then the court could say, listen, you really should have known this was stolen. So that's what we look for, guys, for receiving stolen property. And again, the fact that you paid for the property doesn't necessarily mean that you are off the hook. Okay, guys, as usual, if you have any questions, put them in the comments or email me. And I hope you are having a great night. Bye.